Oh my God, you guys are not going to believe what I did. I mean, I still can't believe I did it. It was the absolute worst, most mortifying, yet utterly satisfying moment of my entire life. I swapped my cheating husband's lube for super glue, and the next thing I know, there are firefighters with jaws of life trying to separate him from his mistress. Was I wrong for what I did? Tell me honestly, would you have done the exact same thing in my shoes? Because right now, I'm still trying to process if I'm a vindictive monster or a total genius. Let me take you back to how it all started. My husband, Mark, and I had been together for 12 years, married for 8. We built a life, a home, a future. Or so I thought. We had 2 beautiful kids, a dog, the whole suburban dream. Mark was a sales manager, and I worked part-time as a graphic designer, mostly from home, so I could be there for the kids. We had our ups and downs, like any couple, but nothing ever prepared me for the gut punch that was coming. It started subtly. Mark began working longer hours, which, you know, is normal in sales sometimes. He'd come home later, smelling faintly of a perfume that definitely wasn't mine. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe it was a new client or a coworker. I tried to convince myself I was being paranoid. But then came the late-night texts, the hushed phone calls he'd take in the garage, the way he'd flinch if I reached for his phone. My intuition, that annoying little voice in the back of my head, started screaming. One evening, he was in the shower, and his phone buzzed. It was on the nightstand, and, face down, my heart hammered against my ribs. I just knew. I picked it up, feeling like the worst person in the world, but also like a detective on the verge of cracking a case. The screen lit up, a message from Sarah P. It read, "Miss you already. Can't wait for our lunch tomorrow, my love. My love." My world just shattered. It wasn't just a text. There was a photo attached, a selfie of her, a woman I didn't know, looking far too comfortable. I felt a cold dread spread through me, numbing me from the inside out. I remember just standing there, phone in hand, staring at the message until the screen went dark. Mark came out of the shower, humming. He saw me, saw his phone in my hand, and his face went white. The jig was up. We had the predictable, soul-crushing argument. He denied it, then he minimized it, then he begged, then he cried. He swore it was a one-time mistake, a moment of weakness, that it meant nothing, that he loved me, only me. But the details he eventually confessed were anything but a one-time mistake. Sarah P. was a new hire at his company, someone he'd been mentoring for months. Months they'd been meeting for lunch, that turned into more late nights, at the office that weren't about work. My blood ran cold as he laid it all out. He even admitted they'd been intimate in our own bed, when I was away visiting my sister. That was the final straw. The betrayal wasn't just physical. It was an invasion of our sacred space, a desecration of everything we built. I kicked him out that night. He went to stay with his brother. The kids, bless their innocent hearts, were oblivious, thinking Daddy was just on a business trip. I spent the next few days a wreck, oscillating between uncontrollable sobbing and a furious, simmering rage. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. My mind was a whirlwind of how could he, and what did I do wrong? My friends and family rallied around me, offering support, but I felt utterly alone, completely broken. During this time, Mark was relentless. He called, he texted, he sent flowers, he even showed up at the house begging for forgiveness. He swore he'd end it with Sarah, that he'd go to therapy, that he'd do anything to save our marriage. A part of me, the part that remembered 12 years of love and shared dreams, wanted to believe him. But the other part, the part that was screaming in pain, knew it was too late. The trust was gone. shattered beyond repair. Then came the day he sent me a long, heartfelt email detailing his plan to win me back. He said he was going to take some time off work, focus on us, on therapy, on rebuilding. He even mentioned he'd broken up with Sarah P., that she was devastated but understood, and for a fleeting moment, I actually considered it. Maybe, just maybe, we could fix this. But then, less than 24 hours later, my friend Lisa, who works at the same company as Mark, sent me a discreet message. "Hey, just saw Mark at lunch with Sarah P. They looked pretty cozy, definitely not like they just broke up." My heart dropped into my stomach. The fury returned, hotter and more intense than ever before. He hadn't just cheated, he was lying to my face, playing me for a fool, even after being caught. That was it. No more tears, no more sadness. Just pure, unadulterated rage and a burning desire for retribution. I started planning. I knew Mark had a man cave in the basement where he kept his adult toys and his industrial-sized bottle of lube. He was a creature of habit, always kept it in the same drawer. A sinister idea started to form in my mind, a dark little spark that quickly grew into a roaring inferno. So, that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Here I was, heartbroken, betrayed, and lied to, not just once, but repeatedly. I had a husband who was not only cheating, but actively mocking my intelligence by lying about ending it. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have walked away quietly, or would you have done something to make him truly regret his actions? I genuinely want to know what you guys think, because I'm still wrestling with this. My opportunity came a few days later. Mark called, sounding all contrite and hopeful, asking if he could come over to pick up some more clothes, promising to be quick and respectful. I agreed, pretending to still be in a state of emotional turmoil, hinting that I might be open to talking in the future. He bought it hook, line, and sinker. I knew exactly why he needed the clothes. He was going to Sarah's. While he was on his way, I went down to the basement. My hands were shaking, but my resolve was steel, hard. I found his drawer. There it was, the massive bottle of his favorite extras, slippery, long-lasting lube. Next to it, in a toolbox, was a tube of industrial-strength super glue, the kind he used for DIY projects around the house. A wicked grin spread across my face. I grabbed them both. I went into the kitchen, my heart pounding like a drum. I meticulously poured out half of his precious lube into a separate container. Then, slowly, deliberately, I squeezed the entire tube of super glue into the remaining lube bottle. I stirred it gently with a skewer, making sure it was thoroughly mixed, an insidious concoction that looked identical to the real thing. I then poured the lethal mixture back into the original lube bottle, capped it, and returned it to its exact spot in the drawer. I even made sure the label was facing the right way. No way he'd suspect a thing. I cleaned up every trace, every drip, leaving no evidence of my dark deed. My hands were still trembling, but now it was from a strange mix of fear and exhilaration. When Mark arrived, he was overly solicitous, trying to gauge my mood. I kept my face carefully neutral, a mask of weary sadness. "The kids are at school," I said softly, "just grab what you need." He nodded, gave me a fleeting, remorseful look, and headed downstairs. I heard him rummaging around. Then he came back up, carrying a duffel bag, looking a little more cheerful, like he'd gotten everything he needed for his little escapade. He mumbled something about hoping we could talk soon and left. I watched him drive away, a cold, hard knot of anticipation in my stomach. The waiting was excruciating. I didn't know how or when it would happen, but I knew it would. And when it did, I wanted to be ready. I tried to go about my day, but I couldn't focus. Every time my phone buzzed, I jumped. And then it happened. Not a call from Mark, but a frantic call from Lisa, my friend from work. Her voice was a mixture of shock, amusement, and sheer disbelief. "You are not going to believe what just happened at Mark's building," she practically shrieked. Apparently, he and Sarah P. were in a very compromising position in one of the empty offices, and somehow they got stuck together, like literally stuck. They couldn't move. Someone heard their screams, and they had to call 911. The paramedics, the police, and even the fire department are there. They're trying to figure out how to unstick them. My blood ran cold for a second. Then a wave of pure, unadulterated triumph washed over me. It worked. Oh, it worked. I started laughing, a wild, slightly hysterical laugh that made Lisa pause. "Wait, why are you laughing?" she asked, bewildered. "Don't tell me you had something to do with this. Let's just say—" I managed to choke out, still laughing, "I might have helped him with his personal lubrication problem." Lisa gasped, then burst into uncontrollable laughter herself. "No, you didn't. Oh my God, you absolute legend." The story, as it unfolded, was even better than I could have imagined. Mark, ever the penny pincher, had decided to use one of the empty executive offices after hours for his rendezvous with Sarah. They were in the throes of passion, liberally applying the lube, when they suddenly realized they were no longer slippery, but incredibly, terrifyingly adhesive. Panic set in. They tried to move, to pull apart, but the glue, now setting, held them fast. Their desperate struggles only made it worse, creating an even stronger bond. When a janitor heard their muffled cries for help, he initially thought it was a prank. But then he peeked through the door and saw the horrifying sight. Mark and Sarah, practically fused together, naked and mortified. He called security, who quickly escalated it to 911. The paramedics were stumped. They couldn't just yank them apart. It would cause serious injury. The fire department was called in, because apparently, when you're stuck together by industrial strength super glue, you need more than just medical advice. You need the jaws of life, or at least some serious chemical solvents. The entire building was abuzz. Employees who were working late were witnessing this unfolding spectacle. The firefighters, trying to maintain professionalism despite the absurdity of the situation, had to carefully assess the scene. Imagine the indignity, naked, stuck to your mistress, with a team of burly firefighters trying to figure out how to separate you without ripping off skin. They eventually resorted to using special solvents, carefully applied. It took hours, hours of public humiliation. Mark and Sarah P. were finally unstuck, but not before suffering chemical burns and, I imagine, the most profound embarrassment of their lives. Mark was, predictably, furious when he realized what I had done. He tried to threaten me, to say he'd tell everyone, but frankly, the cat was already out of the bag. The story spread like wildfire through his company. His career was effectively over. Sarah P. resigned in shame a few days later. Their love affair ended with a painful, public, and incredibly sticky bang. As for me, I filed for divorce. It was surprisingly swift and amicable, mostly because Mark was so desperate to avoid any further public scrutiny. He signed everything I put in front of him. I got the house, full custody of the kids, and a substantial settlement. He left town shortly after, probably to escape the lingering whispers and the indelible stain of the glue incident. It's been a few years now. I've rebuilt my life. The kids are thriving. I have a fantastic support system, and my design business is doing really well. Sometimes I still think about that day about the sheer audacity of what I did. And yes, a part of me still feels a tiny pang of guilt, but it's quickly overshadowed by a sense of fierce justice. He deserved to be exposed, to feel even a fraction of the humiliation and pain he inflicted on me. So, that's my story. The day I swapped lube for glue and watched my cheating husband's life spectacularly implode. I'm still not entirely sure if I'm a hero or a villain, but I know one thing. I learned to trust my instincts, to stand up for myself, and that sometimes a little creative revenge can be incredibly cathartic. Like this video if you were on my side, subscribe for more stories like this, and share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. I'll see you all in the next story.